Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A San Diego sailor is under arrest accused of spying for China. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. He's one of two Navy sailors charged with selling information to a Chinese official, according to indictments unsealed today. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has more.
Petty Officer Second Class Jin Chao Wei was a machinist mate on the amphibious assault ship Essex in San Diego. Federal prosecutors say that from before Wei even checked aboard the Essex in March 2022, he'd already been recruited by a Chinese intelligence officer.
With more than 50 U.S. Navy ships based here, Naval Base San Diego is critically important to U.S. security. That's why this conduct is personal for San Diego, and we will not stand for it.
Randy Grossman, the U.S. Attorney for California's Southern District, announced Wei's arrest today.
When a soldier or sailor chooses cash over country and hands over national defense information in an ultimate act of betrayal, we have to be ready to act. And that's exactly what we have done here.
Wei, who recently became an American citizen, allegedly sold documents and technical manuals for more than a year. Prosecutors say the 22-year-old also sent photos and videos of military equipment and ships in San Diego. Another sailor, Petty Officer Second Class Wei-Heng Zhao, was also arrested under espionage charges. Zhao was a construction electrician at Naval Construction Group 1 at Naval Base Ventura County. Both Wei and Zhao were taken into custody yesterday. Stacy Moy, who supervises the FBI office in San Diego, says the arrests show the threat the U.S. faces from China.
The FBI is continuously monitoring threats from foreign intelligence adversaries directed at our nation, and there is no bigger, multi-generational threat to the United States than from the government of the People's Republic of China, the PRC.
The Essex is currently undergoing maintenance at a San Diego dry dock. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Some monsoon moisture has been around the last several days, as evidenced with higher dew points, but in the coming days, the atmosphere is turning drier, and when that happens, the temperature can heat up more effectively. In fact, those excessive heat alerts are already back in place for our eastern counties, and they could be expanding westward in the days ahead. We'll let you know just how high the mercury will rise over the weekend and into early next week a little bit later on in the broadcast.
A proposal to allow more housing in San Diego's low-density neighborhoods faces an uncertain future. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has more on the city's implementation of Senate Bill 10.
SB 10 is a state law that allows cities to streamline the approval of up to 10 homes on lots that would otherwise be restricted to single-family homes. Mayor Todd Gloria hoped to use it to help integrate the city's most exclusive neighborhoods with lower-cost townhomes and small apartment buildings. The measure was presented to the city's Planning Commission for the second time on Thursday. It was supported by affordable housing developers, youth advocates, and environmental groups who see it as a means of helping relieve San Diego of its housing shortage.
I think everyone wants there to be more affordable homes in San Diego. It's about where we put them. SB 10 gives us one tool to add capacity, and that's why I support it. It adds more production, more potential for building more homes in San Diego.
But the measure faced fierce opposition, mostly from homeowners, who argued it would disrupt the look and feel of their neighborhoods and crowd them with more neighbors and more cars. The planning commissioners ultimately agreed SB 10 just goes too far.
I am very much pro-housing, pro-affordable housing. We need it in our community, but to me, this is not the mechanism. I think we're going down a wrong path here that we won't be able to retreat from.
Mayor Gloria says he won't be taking SB 10 to the City Council as previously planned, but he says he will hold more workshops to try and craft a compromise. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria has an update on how the city's unsafe camping ordinance is going. In the first 3 days of enforcement, the mayor says officers came in contact with 30 people violating the new law. 3 of them were arrested for outstanding warrants and 2 were given citations. 3 others accepted a bed at a shelter.
The goal of the unsafe camping ordinance is to get folks off the streets, where for the most part they are not moving towards resolving their underlying causes of their homelessness and are living in extremely dangerous situations.
Right now, 5 officers are enforcing the ban, starting with parks and schools where encampments are prohibited. The mayor also addressed concerns about the city's proposal to turn the Malcolm X Library parking lot into a safe parking lot. Neighbors say it's not a good site because it's next to a school, but Gloria says people are already using the lot to sleep in their cars. A jury has awarded a former UC San Diego researcher with $39 million in damages in a case of alleged retaliation by the university. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has details that include dueling lawsuits claiming fraud and defamation.
Dr. Kevin Murphy was a prominent pediatric oncologist and researcher in 2015 when one of his patients and local philanthropists, Charles Kreutzkamp, died of cancer and left $10 million to UC San Diego for use in research. The money was supposed to be earmarked for Murphy's research experiments for a specific treatment for brain disorders in children and adults. The doctor says that didn't happen when it came time to fund his medical trials.
They had kind of spent the money already and had allotted it toward various folks, and I was having to now take that back. And so that was, that created a lot of anger. And I just found a series of repetitive retaliatory things that started to happen and made it very difficult to use the money.
Murphy says he was denied reviews of his research protocols, which compromised his work, and he says his staff was unexpectedly cut without cause. Then he was fired by the UC Regents because they claimed he was misusing money for his personal gain.
I think the goal is to make an example of someone like me, and that, of course, affects anybody else that wants to raise their hand and say, I'm seeing a problem here. But I don't want what happened to Dr. Murphy to happen to me.
The legal case played out in San Diego Superior Court over the past 2 months, where a jury considered the university's lawsuit for fraud against Murphy, while also hearing the doctor's counter lawsuit against the UC Regents for retaliation and defamation. They awarded him $39 million in damages, while awarding $67,000 to the UC system to cover income earned by the doctor outside the university and was not reported. Mark Quigley led the team of attorneys who represented Dr. Murphy. He is working on 3 other cases of retaliation against the UC, still to go to trial.
If faculty are encouraged to step up and blow the whistle if they think there's fraud or economic waste or a violation of the law, then they're to be protected. They're not to be retaliated against and vilified and destroyed, which is exactly what they did to Dr. Murphy.
We reached out to both UC San Diego administration and the attorney representing them in this case. By our deadline this afternoon, KPBS News had not received a response from either of them. UC Regents have the option to appeal. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Former President Donald Trump is facing his 3rd indictment in just 4 months. Chris Wynn has the latest from Washington, where Trump answered to 4 new felony charges today.
In a historic move, former President Donald Trump was charged with conspiring to overturn the results of the 2020 election, which prosecutors say fueled the violent riots on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021.
This is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America.
Trump appeared before a magistrate judge Thursday. He is charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding, obstructing a congressional proceeding, and conspiracy against voting rights.
The government has assumed the burden of proving that. The government, in their indictment, takes the position that he had actual knowledge that he had lost the election and the election wasn't stolen through fraud. And they're going to have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt.
Trump is now facing 78 criminal charges total across 3 cases, while still the frontrunner for the Republican nomination for president. The former president's lawyer argues he had a First Amendment right to express his feelings about the outcome of the 2020 election.
What President Trump did is he said, go patriotically and peacefully and protest. That is an American right. That is why we are America.
Trump has pleaded not guilty in the 3 cases against him. Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
Call it a heavyweight bout between blue and red state America. Florida Governor and Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis has accepted Governor Gavin Newsom's invitation to debate. DeSantis accepted while speaking to Fox News' Sean Hannity before a studio audience. And as of now, the 90-minute debate will be held in November and broadcast live on Fox News. Newsom and DeSantis have frequently exchanged insults over their respective political agendas and leadership on social media and on television. Psychedelic drugs may be helpful in addressing eating disorders. That's according to new research from UC San Diego that saw patients taking a synthetic version of the drug found in magic mushrooms. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
Psilocybin is a hallucinogen found in psychedelic mushrooms that temporarily alter someone's consciousness. Past research has shown promise in the drug helping people with depression, alcoholism, or even PTSD. A new study from UC San Diego says it could also help people with anorexia nervosa. The condition causes people to substantially reduce their food intake and have a distorted view of their body.
We really don't have treatments that kind of treat from the inside out, that reverse core psychological symptoms.
Stephanie Natz-Peck is a psychologist and UC San Diego professor. Natz-Peck and Dr. Walter Kay from UC San Diego's Eating Disorder Centers decided to try something new, giving a high dose of synthetic psilocybin to 10 people to see if a psychedelic trip combined with supportive therapy could change the way they think about themselves.
Lots of people came out of the experience saying, like, I spent so much time and energy worrying, thinking that my whole self-worth was based on what I looked like or needing to be this weight or otherwise I was worthless. And I have this kind of reprioritization of what's important for me. And I no longer really, that's not my full identity.
4 out of 10 study participants showed significant drops in their eating disorder symptoms, and that continued after 3 months.
More research is needed to kind of replicate that in a larger controlled trial, but that's a really promising finding compared to what we currently have available for people.
Kay says one goal of the study was to see if psilocybin was safe for patients diagnosed with anorexia. He says it generally was, with some reporting minor side effects. But psilocybin is a Schedule I drug in the U.S., so special licenses had to be obtained. Kay is hoping the FDA will soon allow easier access for studies like this.
I think this is promising enough that I've been doing this for many years, and we haven't found much that really changes thinking in people with anorexia.
It's unclear at these early stages if one trip is enough to make a lasting impact. 9 out of 10 people said they felt that one dose wasn't enough. The researchers are currently part of a larger trial to find out some of those answers, and they're looking for more participants. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Nearly a third of adult Californians say they are done getting COVID booster shots. That's according to a survey published by the UCLA Center for Health Policy Research. And it found 32% of adults would decline any additional COVID-19 booster. It also found of the adults who have not been fully vaccinated, 48% think it's unnecessary, 45% worry about side effects, 22% say they don't know enough about the vaccine, and 20% don't believe in vaccines in general. Logan Heights restaurant and other business owners are hoping people from outside of the neighborhood will venture in for food and fun at the Taste of Imperial event tomorrow. KPBS reporter Katie Heisen spoke with one participating business owner.
Empanadas are Javier Rodriguez's specialty at Antojitos Colombianos in Logan Heights.
If you come to the restaurant, you don't taste empanada, I think you're losing something good.
Rodriguez says he sold everything he had to start the restaurant 13 years ago with just a few tables. His daughters slept in the car outside while he and his wife fried up empanadas. He wants others to sample the flavors of the community and get to know what it's really like.
We want people to know the community in here because a lot of people doesn't know Logan Heights, and they think it's like a scary area, maybe unsafe area.
Logan Heights has been historically separated from the rest of San Diego, first by redlining and then by freeway construction. The predominantly Latino neighborhood was disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and didn't receive as much help to recover from it. Digital and language access barriers caused many of the area's restaurants to miss out on small business aid. The Logan Heights Community Development Corporation is putting on Taste of Imperial to help continue post-pandemic recovery and celebrate the neighborhood's identity, which Development Director Natasha Salgado says is one of resilience.
It's almost like you think of all of the horrible things that could happen to a community, segregated housing, redlining, discriminatory practices, yet we're still here.
You can taste Rodriguez's empanadas and the offerings of a dozen other businesses Friday evening on Imperial Avenue. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Well, climatologically speaking, August into September is our hottest time of the year, and it looks like Mother Nature is trying to coincide with that timing. Excessive heat is making a return over the coming days, and actually at the coast, we're going to be talking about warmth that's even warm for coastal sections. And given the heat, the dry weather, and even what's already going on off to our east out in the deserts, it's a good idea to avoid any type of outdoor burning this weekend because that fire risk could easily be elevated. It's also worth pointing out that through tonight, areas farther off to our north have some beach hazard statements posted, but even down closer to San Diego and San Clemente, we could be seeing a little bit of excess water pooling that could lead to a little erosion or some rough chop in the water. So do be aware of that. Overnight, pretty quiet. A few extra clouds will be on the way in, but mid-60s in the metro area. All in all, a quiet night and still fairly pleasant. During the day tomorrow, plenty of sunshine. Temperatures in the 70s near the coast, 80s to around 90 inland, and of course, the desert's looking quite hot in triple digits already. As we go hour by hour through tonight, again, not much fanfare. Overnight into early Friday morning, here's some of those clouds that will start to thicken, especially right along the coastal section. So a bit of a dull start to the day, but then we'll quickly break into some sunshine, and it will be warm to hot sunshine. This area of high pressure is expanding westward. That's essentially an invitation for the heat to come with it. Excessive heat alerts are already posted, and they will carry with us as we head into the weekend. So at the coast, upper 70s for Friday, and then actually mid-80s by Sunday underneath a lot of sunshine. That'll feel quite warm. Heading inland, we'll trade the 80s for the mid to upper 90s before the weekend is done. Still no threat for rain. In the mountains, that's your best bet for relief. Upper 70s to around 80. No storms here either. And in the deserts, check out this heat. We're going for the 100 and teens Saturday through Tuesday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Ben Reppert.
Law enforcement unions have funneled more than $160,000 into the upcoming San Diego County Board of Supervisors special election for District 4 on August 15th. And that money has funded misleading advertisements focused on one candidate in the race. 9 News Source investigative reporter Jill Castellano has been following the money in the election. Thanks for joining me, Jill. What can you tell me about these ads?
Well, Maya, mailers have made their way to voters' homes over the past couple weeks that have sparked backlash. They're centered around one candidate, Monica Montgomery Stepp, who's the current San Diego City Council President pro tem. Montgomery Stepp is a police reform candidate and has spent a lot of time on the city council focusing on criminal justice issues. In these election ads, the San Diego Police Union and the county's Deputy District Attorneys Association talk about her track record on public safety. They paint Montgomery Stepp as someone whose policies have led to increases in crime and taken resources away from police. But those statements aren't entirely true. In fact, Montgomery Stepp has voted in favor of expanding the police's budget for the past 5 years. Another key claim also turned out to be incorrect. The police union says county election officials forced Montgomery Stepp to remove false information from her candidate statement. But election officials say that's not the case. Here's Montgomery Stepp at a recent candidate forum talking about the ads.
There is a campaign right now by the Police Officers Association that says anybody but Monica. And the reason for that is because I hold our police department accountable. I hold law enforcement accountable for these bad acts that we are talking about.
More than $1 million has been spent in the election so far. With 2 more weeks to go before voting ends, more mailers are expected to hit voters' homes soon. Maya?
Thanks, Jill. Now, do the supervisors have any jurisdiction over the San Diego Police Department?
That's a really good question, and the simple answer is no. The city of San Diego has jurisdiction for the San Diego Police, but the County of San Diego and the Board of Supervisors do have jurisdiction for the Sheriff's Department, the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. And what we often find in these elections is that different law enforcement agencies from different parts of the county are aligned in the candidates that they support and oppose.
Thanks for your report, Jill. I've been speaking to iNewsSource investigative reporter Jill Castellano. Thanks, Jill.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, an insider's take on the latest Trump indictment from former Attorney General Bill Barr. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
They started buzzing around San Diego 27 years ago, and you may have seen them. Little yellow open-air cars carrying tourists, taking in the sights and learning about the city. Well, KPBS reporter John Carroll tagged along with a group of visitors to see what they see and what they hear.
Have you seen them before? These little yellow two-seaters? They're called go-cars. If you have, bet you haven't seen a group this size taking a tour together.
So this is our family reunion.
Luana Clark is the convener of this reunion, the Copeland Anderson Sanders family reunion. All 23 of them from points near and far around the country. More from them in a moment, but back to the go-cars and how this all works. It starts in a little building on Mason Street in Old Town.
When parking the go-kart, do as locals do and curb the wheels.
Everyone grabs a helmet. Then, time to go to the go-cars and get a little more tutoring from a go-car crew member. And we're off. My photographer Carlos and I jumped in our own go-car and followed this family reunion group for their Gaslamp Quarter and San Diego Harbor tour.
Turn left onto San Diego Avenue.
A pre-recorded tour guide does double duty, giving directions and pointing out the sights.
Coming up on the left at Harney Street is the Whaley House, the officially designated haunted house.
Eventually, we're headed south on Hancock Street. Nothing too touristy to see here. As we move toward Little Italy, the whole group is hanging together and apparently having a good time.
Get out for a minute or two and watch the sky over the top of the green building.
No big deal for San Diegans, but a sight worth seeing for tour takers. Airplanes coming in for a landing at San Diego International Airport. While we pull over and wait for a plane, the rest of the crew catches up.
We are now in Little Italy's warehouse area.
The trip through Little Italy is filled with stops and starts. This is Little Italy, after all.
Waterfront is the oldest legal bar in San Diego.
As we move farther south, it becomes a challenge to keep this family together. But then comes a left turn with the Blue Pacific straight ahead. With the group back together, we continue south, passing by one of San Diego's crown jewels.
The large sailing ship is the Star of India. First sailed from Britain in the 1860s, this is the oldest active ship of any kind in the world.
We snake out of the Maritime Museum parking lot. One more piece of notable nautical history to check out.
The USS Midway Museum, parked next to us, was active during 3 wars.
The go-car tour guide points out when there are tours available at some of the sites along the route, like the Midway.
For $15, you could tour the aircraft carrier, which includes some cool aircraft.
All along the way, this familial caravan of nearly 24 go-cars gets the looks from pedestrians and the occasional bike rider.
How you doing?
Good. Have fun.
Thank you.
Back out onto Harbor Drive. Next destination, the Gaslamp Quarter. We brush past the convention center, a tip of the hat to Petco Park, and before you know it, we're headed north on 5th. The last leg of the tour.
We are now entering the Bankers Hill neighborhood.
Paralleling the 5, we make our way back to Old Town.
we've almost finished our tour.
And just like that, we're back. Nearly 2 hours flew by, and the organizer-in-chief is happy.
So in the go-kart, we were able to get our tan on. We were able to get our racetrack driving skills on.
Gail Copeland is all smiles, too.
It was lovely, the vegetation, the trees with the flowers on them, the blooming flowers. Pretty, very pretty.
I live in Cathedral City.
Patricia Forte didn't have to come far, but she says the go-kart tour gave her a whole new perspective on San Diego.
It was nice and hearing about the mansions that we got to see in the old district. Very informative. A lot of history, a lot of history.
And for photographer Carlos Castillo and me, a chance to see and appreciate San Diego in a new way.
San Diego!
The Copeland Anderson Sanders Group is now en route to the Maritime Museum. Here at the Go-Car Place, the Go-Car crew is getting the cars ready for the next tour of beautiful San Diego. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Terrific story, and you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.